Hey, everybody. Welcome. It's Coach Les and Mr. Yarwood. And we are here today doing mental health through martial arts and real talk. And I think, what is this, episode 42?
7.
47. Woo!
47.
47 weeks.
Yeah.
And we've skipped a few in between for things like state tournament, world tournaments, where I'm extraordinarily proud to say Mr. Yarwood did very well, and I'll let him share about that, as that is part clearly of his mental health at the moment.
Yeah, so every year we have a tournament season. It goes from July through May, and all black belts are eligible to do tournaments, and they earn points towards a standing. And then the top 10 people in their division in the world compete for world championships in Denver in July. So this last couple weeks ago, I traveled to Denver to go compete, and I competed in 6 events and won 3 world championships and then a third place. So I did pretty good. It was pretty cool. But a lot of training, a lot of time, but it was fun. It was very good.
And how would you say that affects, in general, affects your mental acuity or state?
Yeah, so it's more about leading up to it, right? Actually winning it, it's like it's really cool, obviously in the moment, but half an hour later, you moved on to other stuff because while I'm there, I have a lot of other things going on beyond just my competition. So I celebrate it quickly and then I move on. But the mental health part comes from all the training, all the ups and downs of along the way, the tournaments that I compete in, winning and losing, um, practicing stuff that I struggle with, that I fail and have to keep going, pick it up and move forward. You have some issues with those types of things as you go because it's not always easy. So it's a challenge, but I think ultimately it's a net positive because I can look back on all the things that I went through to get to the the opportunity to be able to become a world champion and all the work that I put in, all the time I spent on the mats getting there. It really kind of, when you reflect on that and you see how far you've come and all the things you've gone through, I think it's a great thing for your mental state to understand that you can push through all the diversity, all the adversity, all the stuff and still come out on top. It just, as long as you keep working and keep doing the things you need to do. Because once you decide that you're going to quit, your mental state starts to decline as well, because now you start talking negatively about yourself. You start talking about the things that are going on, that you make excuses like we talked about last week. There's all kinds of other stuff that goes into it. And I think it's a drag on how you feel about yourself and what your mental state can become, because you can start trailing off into some negative areas if you start allowing yourself to become um, a, negative about yourself and the way you say things to yourself inside your head. So it can be pretty bad if you allow that to take over your thoughts.
And what do you think about today's? So I'm going to Q&A you a little bit today, because, well, I just think that
That's fine.
there's some things that I have a tremendously hardcore view on, and my question would be this: what is, in today's world, today's society, do you think we cater too much to the what's the word I'm looking for? Mollycoddle is the only thing I can remember from, that namby-pamby, Oh dear, it's okay. Here, let me pet that little boo boo. Oh, did you get a bruise here? Let me pet that for you. It'll go
Mhm.
away.
Yep.
And I just, I think, me personally, I see we're in a society that has gone way overboard. And so I'm curious on your view, because in martial arts, you're going to get injured. It's not if, it's when, and then how do you recover from it? And what do you do to get back?
Yeah. So addressing the first part, um, I'm obviously, well, I'm maybe not obviously, but I'm Gen X, and I think one of the things that we came up understanding is that you fall down, you get hurt, you get back up, and you keep going. You rub what we used to say is rub some dirt on it. So it was a challenge for us, but we learned that if you fall down, you get back up. Nobody's there to pick you up, dust you off, and whatever, pat you on the butt. You're sometimes you're on your own. So you understand that one little setback doesn't stop you. You don't wait for somebody to come and coddle you and tell you everything's okay. I think one of the issues we have now is that we jump too soon to try and fix a problem that might not exist. We actually might create a bigger one by coddling some kid who falls and he bends his finger, and we run to him and immediately pick him up and say, "Oh, it's gonna be okay. You'll be fine." And we start coddling him, and he starts to respond by maybe he starts crying more, or he decides he doesn't want to do what it is that he was doing anymore because it hurts too much, or and then we build on that by saying, well, it's okay, you can sit down, and you don't have to compete anymore if you don't want to, you don't have to play anymore if you don't want to, it's okay, you come back when you feel better. And by doing that, I think one of the issues that creates is a kid who doesn't have any ability to deal with his adversity because he's always surrounded by somebody who's willing to just coddle him and allow him to live in his feelings and deal with all that kind of stuff. And the problem becomes that he doesn't know how to handle something. So down the road, as he gets older, he runs into problems in school. He runs into issues at work, with his family, and he doesn't know how to deal with something that might come up for him to be able to understand that stuff happens, life happens, and we move forward and we keep going. So with them being able to handle a situation like that, they pick themselves up, they deal with it, and they move on. Sure, they got to, you're going to have times where it might be more serious, and those are the things we have to evaluate to understand what it's going to be. But ultimately, if we coddle them, it turns out to be something that isn't going to be good for them in the long term. It's going to be detrimental. And I think um, helping them to work through issues, to deal with issues in a way that is a more positive direction for them to be able to respond in a way that says, um, you know, sure, it hurts. So what? Get back on the mat. Let's go. If a bone is hanging out, if a tooth is missing, a big gash on your head, whatever, those things are, things we can deal with. But if you fell and you hurt your butt, who cares? Get back up, keep going. And when you put them in situations that allow them to quit, to make a decision that they don't want to keep going because it hurts or my feelings hurt or whatever, you're setting them up for long term failure, and it's not a good thing for them to be able to handle that kind of stuff. So my 2 cents anyway.
And I think that's the piece for me where do people get it in society? Right? We used to play down the corner, or at the park, and we used to fall off the bench or the fall off the slide, or now there's rubber, and you fall off, and it's like a state fair jumping off. Woo! Look, I'm
Yeah.
bouncing in the rubber pieces. And gone are those days when you get a scrape and you got to deal with a little pain. You go home and mom has to, well, I've got to scrub that to get that gravel out of there. No, just leave it in there. And they're like, and out comes the scrubbing brush, and you're like,
Yep. Or you get the hydrogen peroxide to clean it out the cut.
Yeah. No, I think the worst one was so I decided to play with my stepmom and dad's new knife set, and I was showing a friend of mine, look, it's really sharp, and I went through a piece of paper. Well, he goes, oh, I didn't see it. Do it again. Well, now I'm operating with half the piece of paper. There goes the end of my thumb.
Whoops.
And I stuck my tongue. And I'm like, I cut the end of my thumb off. And he goes, what? I went, I cut the end of my thumb off. And he goes, I can't understand you. I said, look, gush, 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 gush. See, I cut the other way. And he goes, and he went white as a ghost. So we went next door to my neighbor's house. Her name was Dorothy, and I'll never forget it. Because I had to do the same thing again, right? Because she couldn't understand me. And my buddy was still white. So I went, I cut the end of my thumb off. And she goes, I'll be right back. And she goes and she comes back with this bottle of red stuff. And she puts some in a thimble, and she goes, give me your thumb. I'm like, she goes, give me your thumb. And she grabs my thumb and sticks it into the mercurochrome.
Iodine?
I know, it was mercurochrome, same thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I literally went, wah! I had not hurt up until that point. And I'm like, let me go. And she goes, no, 30 seconds. And I'm like, it's killing me. She goes, 30 seconds. So 30 seconds later, literally, right, she pulls it out, and it's like stopped bleeding.
It grew back.
Almost. That's what it felt like. And it had stopped bleeding. The entire end from my knuckle down was bright red. And she gets it, and she looks at it and goes, yep, it'll heal. And she wraps it with a bandage, and she goes, okay, go play.
Yep.
And at this point, it felt great because it wasn't in a flipping mercurochrome.
I think that's, like we said, it's like when I was a kid, you fall down, you get back up, the coach would say, rub some dirt on it, you'll be fine, right? There was no response like, oh my gosh, because when you create that situation, then the kid starts crying more, and now the pain starts, right? When we have kids, our little dragons before class, they get to play on the mats, right? And a lot of times they grab the pads and they run into each other as hard as they can, and then they fall and they giggle and laugh and then get back up again. But every once in a while, they hit heads together. Boom, right? And then they fall down, and then they start crying, right? I don't allow my parents on the mat at that point. The kids are playing. I go over to them. I say, all right, get back up. You guys are fine. And I look at them, and I see like a little spot. And I said, is there blood? No. Anything broken? No. I said, then you're good. Go play. And that's all it takes. And off they go, right? Now it doesn't hurt anymore. It's all you got to do, right? You set that mindset in their head that it's fine. And they keep going. If you go over there and, oh my gosh, he hurt himself and he needs to go sit down, he needs water. All it does is make it a worse scene for them, and they respond dramatically to something that is just a little bump on the head, right? When you create that problem for them, that's how they start to respond to all the things that happen to them. This huge drama, like, oh my gosh, it's the worst thing that's ever happened. I can't believe it, and they don't know how to deal with stuff. And that's where you get safe spaces and all these other things, because kids can't handle situations that are just normal life things that they should be able to just deal with and move on.
Yeah, and it's, when we look at some of this stuff, right? People, the other day, yesterday, I heard something about bullying, and I have zero tolerance for bullying, and it's going to happen. It's not if, it's
Yep.
when.
Yep.
And 99.9% of the time, in my experience, it has to do with a kid that is dealing with some inadequacies and is trying to overcome them by being in control of a situation.
Yep.
And as soon as you take them out of control, they are worse than a scared cat, right? And it's a complete facade.
Yep.
And their buddies support it. Their friends get enamored with it. They laugh because it's funny, because they're not at the brunt end of it themselves. And, I look at that and I think of martial arts and I go, you know, there's no bullying on the mats. There's never any bullying
Nope.
because there's enough fighting.
Yeah. We have fun. We have fun that way already.
Yeah. So it's like there's control, and the control is relegated to the belts, right? So there's an order. There's there's already a system and a process for maintaining order.
Yep.
Now, some people would say, "Well, that's too much control. My son or my daughter needs freedom." And it's like, yeah, freedom to get into worse trouble,
Yep.
freedom to get, bullied and not know what to do in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And, I look at all the stuff that you teach, and it's not about, somebody learning all these moves and everything so that they can fight. It's so that they can get away. Because most of the time the bully will not expend the energy to follow you. Right?
Yep.
That's work.
Yep.
And they didn't sign up for work. So, I look at the training, and I look at what martial arts provides for young kids, and it also teaches them about being respectful of the knowledge that you have that gives you power, not to be abused. It's to be controlled and there as a defensive measure to basically empower you to not get into those situations or to extricate yourself from those situations as quickly as possible.
Yep. We teach. So the physical to us is the last resort. That's the last thing we want them to do. We give them training enough to be confident in who they are and be able to walk in confidence and talk in confidence and be able to express themselves in a way that they are less likely to be a target of bullying. So that's their first defense, is that build that confidence in themselves to know that whatever a bully says or does doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with them. It has to do with what the bully is feeling and how he feels about himself. Because we found that bullies typically don't feel good about themselves, so they try and transfer that onto other people and make them feel bad so they feel better. And we talk about, say we have kids that, well, I got called this name and that name, and I said, okay, so let's say they got called fat, right? I'll ask them, okay, well, are you fat? No. Well, then why does it matter? They called you fat, and they got a response out of you. That's what they were looking for. They didn't call you fat because you're fat. They called you fat because they want you to respond exactly how you did. They have control and you don't. What I told them to say, and I told them, so I did this exactly to them. I said, all right, I want one of you to call me fat. And they're like, what? And I said, say, hey, Mr. Yarrow, you're fat. And none of them wanted to do it. We finally got one brave soul to say, Mr. Yarrow, you're fat. And I said, thank you. I had a big lunch today. Right? And they all laughed and giggled. And I said, what are you laughing about? And they said, well, you made a joke. I said, no, I didn't make a joke. I had a big lunch. And they started to understand that my response wasn't to say, no, I'm not fat. My response was to accept it, self-deprecate, and it dies because that bully isn't getting a response anymore. The goal of the bully is to get a response from me. And if the response they get is, thank you, I had a big lunch, they're like, that's not what he's supposed to say. Right?
Yeah.
Or you're ugly. Oh, really? I'm ugly? Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And they don't know what to say because that's not the response they're looking for. Right? And it immediately de-escalates something. And they might try again and say something else. And you respond the same way. Eventually they give up because they're not getting what they want out of it. And when you build that confidence to be able to be self-deprecating and be able to accept things like that versus fight against them, you're going to win. And then people are going to stop bullying you because they're not getting the response they want. You're not a fun target for them. And it can immediately quell the bullying that's happening just by how you respond. You don't have to be physical. You don't have to do anything. And dealing with it in that way is one of the most successful ways of doing it. It's there's no response to it because no matter what they say, you just go, okay, thank you. And it's like, what? You're supposed to be mad. You're supposed to be yelling. No, why? It's not true. And I don't care.
Yeah, it's a very interesting phenomenon when you don't give a bully the reaction that they're expecting.
Yep.
Because it literally it like befuddles their brain.
Yep.
And now they're caught because they're like, oh, okay, now what?
Yep. They're in the spotlight now. It's not the kid being bullied anymore. It's the bully because now everybody's like, okay, what are you going to say? And he's like, he doesn't know what to do
because nobody said this to me before,
and he loses power.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I was not a bully growing up. I was a Dennis the Menace. And for me, that was, one of the ways that I survived because I was super young for my grade, right? And I went to a boarding school, at 5 years old. I was 5.5. And when I was there, they talked about the rules, and they made the mistake. They made the mistake of saying, "Hey, that property across the street is off. It's it's off limits.
Don't go there.
Don't go there." And
don't go where?
And for me, that was like putting a bullseye on it and saying, "Hey, this is where the fun's at." And and I'll never forget. I got the hand, I got the slipper, I got the switch, I got the ruler, I got a belt, I had it all within a matter of a month. And I didn't have to bully anybody. I didn't have to prove anything, but I could start ruler wars between the classroom because everybody always wanted to see what I was going to get myself into. So they'd always follow. Not sure that the mental health was great on my end. But that was the part for me And, I look at, there, to me, there was still in that world, there wasn't communication that created an understanding for me to follow rules. Right? My mental health at that point was all about, hey, how do I break a rule, have some fun, and look cool to the older kids?
Yep. Attention grabbing.
Yes, big time. And even when I got punished, I didn't care. I was like, hey, I got punished. Whoa. I mean, I don't remember what I had to write, but I had to write something on the blackboard 1,000 times once.
Didn't work though, did it? 'Cause you don't even remember what it was.
Nope.
I will not. Not what? I don't know.
So there's, you know, to me, that didn't do anything, right? It just took me off the court for, a few hours while I did it.
Yep.
Um, I look at some of the modalities and the things that you do for discipline. Um, Forgetting a belt, forgetting this, or leaving this behind, or messing something up, or talking, while the instructor's talking. And you have people, do burpees or push-ups, and I look at that and I go, for me, that then teaches something, and teaches a limit, and gives, an appropriate amount of, um, punitive damage.
What I've started doing has been even more effective is I've had the student tell me what they should do to get it back. So if they leave their gear, it used to be they got 10 push-ups. Now I'll say, okay, you want your gear back. What do you need to do to get it back? And they're like, what do you mean? I say, well, you come up with what you're supposed to do to get it back. And then we'll see if we agree. So they have to come up with the punishment to, or actually it's the cost to get it back, right?
Mhm.
So maybe it's 15 push-ups. I say, okay, 15 push-ups. Let's do it then, right? Or they come up with something and so they 3 push-ups. Nope, I don't think that's a fair thing. Do you? Right? And I put it back on them. So they're understanding that there's consequences to their actions. And then we have to find out where is that area that is a good consequence for what you're doing, right? We don't want it to be too harsh, but we want it to be too easy either. So allowing them to come up with that, I think gives them an understanding that, okay, I have to be responsible for my things. I have to be responsible for my actions. And if I'm not, then there's consequences. And when they understand that, I think going forward, they start to realize that you do things you're not supposed to do, you're going to have a consequence, whether it's somebody else telling you or you have the integrity to do it yourself.
Mm. I'm just looking at some of these things that, on mental health. Oh, segment 3, cut the fluff. Why we need real talk. Break down the danger of toxic positivity. Yeah, this is not the age of Aquarius.
Blowing smoke up your butt.
Yeah, just be positive doesn't help kids with real anxiety. Men are taught to suppress, not express. Encouragement to speak truth. Confidence comes from real struggle, not fake smiles. Courage is admitting you're struggling and showing up anyway. Here's the thing: you can, and I've said this all along, and all of the coaching, even with adults that are afraid of things. It's like, you're okay. You can have that fear. and still do it anyway.
Yep.
I'm afraid of heights, and I jumped out of planes.
Yep. And that's where you start to overcome those issues that you're having, because if you don't face them head on and you pretend, that's when bad things can happen, right? It goes from anxiety into depression into who knows where else, right? Because you're suppressing all that stuff and you're not dealing with it. And the only place it's bottled up inside of you, and it creates all kinds of problems, right? And then you put on this outward positivity, be happy, blah, 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 when you're not, right? And when you fake it, it creates more issues, because now you're having an external struggle to put on a show to say everything's okay, right? And it creates more and more problems on the inside that can manifest themselves in many ways. And the worst being obviously where you just take yourself out because you can't handle it anymore. And
Yeah,
that's a real problem.
do you remember the fake it till you make it? Have you
Yep.
heard that? Yeah. And that applies in certain circumstances. It applies in the keep going until you get there type of deal,
Yep.
right? It's something where not fake it till you make it, where you put on this beautiful show of happiness, and your parent just died, right?
Yep.
Because and you don't want to let it out, because that kind of stuff festers and
Mm-hmm.
creates issues. So being able to express yourself, being able to um, be in control of the grief.
Yep.
So I went through a course, and one of the courses taught us, as I'm a coach, taught us, when you're dealing with grief, be in control of the grief. Don't let the grief take you. So what that looks like is saying, okay, I'm going to sit and be present, get present, cry, spend some time. And, when in 15 minutes or half an hour, I'm going to get up, dry my eyes off, and get back to business.
Yep.
And if there's something I need to write, if there's somebody I need to communicate with, if there's somebody I need support from, then there are things and actions to take. But to allow and sit there and allow grief or allow emotions to overrun you is saying, well, I don't have control over my emotions. We do have control, because who creates the emotions?
Where did they come from?
I'm like, and I hear this and I'm like, oh, well, you poor child, you have, these emotions, and you have such strong emotions. It's like, wait a minute. You invent them.
Mm-hmm.
You create them. And if we as adults and parents are not responsible for how those emotions get played out, and we allow them to be in control of our kids, that's where that's where the mental health comes in.
Yep.
I mean, think about it. I've seen a kid crying so hard and for so long. They were starting to lose their breath.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wait a minute. And, and I've seen it happen here at the ice cream shops. And we have a drawer full of Hot Wheels cars. I bought them when the Walmart was closing. And I grab a Hot Wheel car, and I bring the Hot Wheel car over to a little kid. And it's that fast.
Yep.
No, I'm no miracle worker. I just know that if you allow the brain to continue down a path, it will make a rut, and it will play down that rut. So I come along and go, well, let's put you into a different place in your brain. And all of a sudden, they're,
they forgot what they were crying about.
Exactly. And it's, I say it's easy because at this point I haven't I haven't been able to defeat it. Like it just it just happens. I bring
Yep.
over the car. I mean, I brought 5 cars out to the patio today, and 2 of the kids weren't doing well. They were being loud and obnoxious, right? Something had triggered them. And I bring out, and they each get a little Hot Wheel car, and their whole mood shifted. They sat back down at the table and started playing with it on the table. All of a sudden, they're in control again.
Yep.
And the mom came up to me afterwards and said, "Thank you. We were being unsuccessful."
Obviously.
And I said, and I just looked at her and said, "Hey, I just took his attention and put it on something else."
Yep.
Super strategic. Is mental toughness a trainable skill? I love this. Um, especially at the very end where it says, here, if you're listening, black belts weren't born confident. They were made by failing, struggling, and refusing to quit. They fell down, they got back up. They got kicked down, they get back up. They got hit, they got bruises, and they came back and asked for more. Right? Like that's just the play of the game.
Yep.
And these people, ask about the Shaolin monks, right? I can't believe they could do this stuff. How do they do it? Well, think about it. They spend 12 hours a day training. In some of that training, it is a lot, starting to punch a tree and over time they get used to it. It's no magic, right? Like they're human beings that have been well trained. They have forms, they have sparring, they have controlled discomfort, and it's brought upon in a time, in an age-old recipe. Hit this, do this action 10,000 times in the next month, and do it again and again and again, and this result will happen.
Yep. It's how it works.
It is. So, with anything, actions speak way louder than words. Practice doesn't make perfect. Good practice makes you good. If we were able to perfectly practice, we could then be perfectly good.
That ain't happening.
No. Yeah. So, being prepared for this, and this is what I love about martial arts, and that's why I'm here. It's like, Les, you already are doing how many live streams? How many things are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing another one with Mr. Yarwood? Because for me, this makes a difference with kids. Just like my ice cream, just like the stores here. Our intention is to make a difference.
Yep.
This with Yarwood's Martial Arts, another amazing opportunity. So thank you, Mr. Yarwood. Thanks for allowing me to join this platform.
Yes, sir.
Any final thoughts?
No, I mean it's back to school time. This is probably the most mental health issues kids have throughout the year. They're starting new school, they're starting new friends, new grades, new teachers, all kinds of new things. They're getting anxious. They're going to start expressing those things in different ways. As parents, we need to listen because they might not necessarily be able to tell us, but if we pay attention, like you said, actions are louder than words. Watch what they're doing, how they're responding to things. For me, I see it in I don't see these kids all the time. I see them a couple times a week, and I can tell when there's something off on them, right? As a parent, you should be able to recognize it immediately because I see it, and you go talk to them. The number one thing, talk to them. See how they're doing. And don't be, how's it going? No, talk to them. What's going on? How was school today? If there's anything happen, good or bad, right? Get them talking about things. Because when they talk about it, they'll get it out, they'll express it, and then you can deal with it. But if you just allow them to say, how was school? It was fine. That's no, it wasn't. You know it wasn't. If you leave it at that, that's the same thing. It's going to fester. It's going to get worse, and you're never going to get them to say anything to you because you never dive into what they're talking about.
Right.
They want to talk to you, but you just have to know how to do it. And if you don't figure that out, both sides are going to struggle. So with it being back to school time, now is the time to start rebuilding that relationship with them. Take 5 minutes at the end of their school day and talk to them. See how their day went. Get them on a schedule to do that so they can get it out of them, because every day they're going to have some issues. And if they're comfortable talking to you about it, it's going to relieve that pressure for them, and their life is going to be a lot easier.
Yeah, and the last thing you want to do is suck it up.
Yep.
Be a man.
There's a time for that, but that mental health stuff, that anxiety, depression stuff is not it. That's not the time.
No.
You got to know when and where to utilize that. Just be cognizant of what they're saying, what they're doing, how they're acting. Pay attention to their actions and their words and listen to them.
Yeah, really do appreciate this. And I am happy to say I'm looking forward to the next time.
Yes, sir.
Any questions, please reach out to either of us. You can see our web addresses. And if this works the way it's supposed to work, when I hit the end stream, you'll get to see another little video.